Hey friend, Brandon here. I'm gonna say it. Google's flagship phone must come to an end if they want to save the Google Pixel phone line, and it has to start with the Google Pixel 5. It'll be one of the best things to happen to Android in a long time if they do it. Let me explain, because this is Tech Today. This video is sponsored in part by Raycon and their E25 wireless Bluetooth earbuds. Get 15% off their already super affordable price by clicking the link in the description, or go to buyraycon.com/thisistechtoday. Make sure to share, subscribe, hit that bell icon to be notified when I post a new video. I would really appreciate it. Nexus. For many of you, that rings a bell of days of old, when Google partnered with other brands to help launch a pure Android development device, using a modified version of that brand's hardware design at an incredible price. Each generation looked vastly different than the previous one because different brands made them. The Nexus 1 was made by HTC and was based on the HTC Desire. The Nexus 5 was based on the LG G4, and the Nexus 6 was based on the Moto X. Then in 2013, Google unveiled the first Google Pixel device, a device developed in partnership with HTC and not based on any other prior HTC device. This was something completely different than the Nexus line. Instead of targeting developers and the die-hard Android fans, they aimed for the masses by targeting the everyday person. They locked down their devices more than the Nexus devices that came before it, and began to move away from the stock Android software and moved into a Google-fied version of Android. They made what I like to call the iPhone of Androids. So the question is, how did that work out for them? It's been both really great and really bad. For the pluses, Google has made Android into their own thing in a different way, bringing new, interesting, and even groundbreaking features, concepts, and technologies to their version of Android. This has pushed other manufacturers to adopt some of the same features, either by updating their devices and software to the newest version of Android to get things like Live Transcribe, or creating their own versions of Google's ideas like Night Sight. Even Apple added their own version of that to the iPhone. In many ways, the Google Pixel has been a platform to show other manufacturers what they should and could be doing, but that hasn't exactly translated well into sales. Despite Google pouring millions and millions of dollars into advertising and initially establishing an exclusivity deal with Verizon, Google really hasn't succeeded in selling the Google Pixel. In fact, looking at statistics for smartphone sales over multiple quarters from various groups shows that Google is almost always grouped together with other brands listed in the other category. And that's below the likes of Samsung, Apple, Huawei, Oppo, and more. What a bummer. And let's be honest, it doesn't help that Google has been plagued with tons of issues the first month or two after release, which always seems to overshadow the fact that most issues are worked out eventually. The phone ends up being really great afterwards for the most part, but by then, the narrative and perception has already been sealed. Plus, what else is a reviewer, like myself, to do but review the device as it is on launch? I'll leave that discussion to Juan Carlos Bagnell to talk about. He wrote a really great article about that, which I linked down below in the description. Add on top of that, their flagship level prices without the typical industry pushing spec flexing insanity that we see with most flagships. Yeah. Essentially, they're asking for a flagship level price without a flagship level reputation. Apple can get away with charging those prices despite not having top tier specs that Android users expect because the experience and ecosystem is solid and meets the needs of most people really well. So here's what's potentially changing. There's a thought process going around that I thought of while researching my video put out at the end of January that Google may completely forgo having a flagship device. This seems like a possibility because we haven't seen a mention of any Google Pixel device in any code developments indicating the use of the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 processor. This is a 5G compatible processor that is found in the Samsung Galaxy S20 series. So far, code that has been found to reference upcoming Google Pixel devices has only pointed to 3 different Google Pixel devices. The first being Sunfish. This one uses a Snapdragon 730 processor. This is definitely the Google Pixel 4a and has been confirmed by checking leaked Pixel 4a devices. And then there's Redfin and Bramble, which uses the Snapdragon 765 5G processor. Initially, this sounded like Google may be making multiple versions of the Google Pixel 4a, and that Dave 2D may have heard something from a source incorrectly stating that there will be only one Pixel 4a. However, if you thought about it long enough, the idea of these other two devices, Redfin and Bramble, being the upcoming Google Pixel 5, it just has to cross your mind, and actually makes a lot of sense. Recent code was found in the Google Camera app that was pulled from a leaked Google Pixel 4a device, refers to current Google Pixel devices and upcoming devices, and it has this consistent formatting within it. In the code, we can see code names in a format that either indicates mid-range or not. The mid-range label has been associated with the codenames Bonito and Sargo, which refers to the Google Pixel 3a. There's Coral, Flame, or Needlefish, and that's the code name for the Google Pixel 4 and 4 XL. Essentially, looking at how this code has worked for existing devices help us better understand what to do with these upcoming devices. Sunfish continues to point to an A series device because of the mid-range label, or the Pixel 4a. Then it logically follows that Bramble and Redfin refers to the upcoming Google Pixel 5 and 5 XL, and therefore indicates that they will have the Snapdragon 765 5G processor seen in the code mentioned earlier. How interesting, right? So why would Google choose the Snapdragon 765, which performs between 30 to 50% lower on the Geekbench test compared to the Snapdragon 865? What does that solve for Google? Remember how Google doesn't really sell a ton of phones? Well, there's been one shining exception to this, the Google Pixel 3a. The reality is that people are price sensitive, especially in today's economic climate, and the Pixel 3a actually meets the needs of most people quite well. The camera's great, the battery life is great, the display is actually not that bad, and it's surprisingly snappy. Oh, and it has those great Google Pixel software features. It has what I call an incredible delight to dollar ratio, which I've talked about in my video review of it up here. This is essentially where your practical experience with the device is so good for every dollar that you spend that you end up thinking, how is it only X amount of dollars? It points to realization from many people, including many of you in the comments, that we may not actually need all these crazy specs to be satisfied with our phones. Along with that is the realization that it's kind of crazy for us to pay so much for these phones. After using the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra and all of its top of the line, insane specs, features, build, and everything else, I can't but feel a bit let down. With the price of $1,400, it is fairly reasonable to have an expectation that everything should be nearly perfect, but it isn't perfect. In fact, there are many issues with it, especially in regards to the camera. So in comparison, it has a delight to dollar ratio that is quite poor. This experience brings a new phrase to mind that goes, specs alone don't make the phone. Specs alone don't make the phone. You know what makes the phone? It's the practical experience. So while die-hard Android fans can be distracted by the specs and benchmark tests, the majority of people just buy the phone that they can afford and just use it. And you know what? I bet a lot of the more spec-savvy types would actually enjoy it too if they just give it a shot. Plus, the practical experiential benefits we're seeing each year from these spec improvements is progressively becoming less and less tangible or practical. Now don't get me wrong, it's really good that there's progress and we should want that, but it's proven to be more and more expensive to enjoy that than what is reasonable. And that is what the payoff is for Google going with the Snapdragon 765. Their struggle has consistently been found in having overpriced flagship devices. The reason why we're seeing these insane prices going far above $1,000 for Android phones comes from the high cost of the Snapdragon 865 processor and 5G, which honestly most of us still don't need or would utilize. By going with the Snapdragon 765, it helps Google stay in that much lower price point, one that seems to be leaving even OnePlus. If you just used the phone and it ran phenomenally and was really snappy, does it really matter if you get a score on Geekbench that's 30 or 50% less than the top tier processor? If you never knew what processor was inside of the phone and never ran a test and just used it, I bet most of you wouldn't actually notice a difference. And that's the issue. You're paying so much for such a little tangible difference. You've been told so often that you need that difference. And by knowing these differences, you feel that you need that difference. But maybe you don't, at least not anymore. Maybe you just need a phone that gets some main things right. Maybe you just need a good experience with great software integration and a solid ecosystem. Oh, and a great price that people can afford and would be willing to pay for. Maybe they'll have a great delight to dollar ratio that's not just found on their A series devices, but on their main series devices as well. Maybe then Google will finally succeed at truly being the iPhone of Androids. And that is why the Google Pixel flagship must end. You know what else must end? Overpriced earbuds. So I want to tell you about these E25 wireless Bluetooth earbuds that cost about half the price of other premium earbuds on the market by this video sponsor, Raycon. Founded by Ray J and endorsed by Snoop Dogg, the Raycon E25s have no wires or cables to get in the way, and they come in this super compact carrying case that can just charge your earbuds 4 times over with 6 hours of playback per charge. That's 24 hours of total playback. And seriously, this case is really tiny, making it really easy to store and travel with. Unlike all the other options for wireless earbuds that are only white or black, the everyday E25s come in a ton of great colors and patterns to fit your style. They look really great in your ears too. With their easy Bluetooth pairing, tons of bass, and crazy affordable price, the Raycon E25s are a great option at a super affordable price and as good as many of the top brands out there. Along with that great price is the opportunity for you to get 15% off that affordable price by clicking the link in the description or going to buyraycon.com/thististechtoday. Thank you so much to Raycon for sponsoring this portion of the video so I can continue to make content for you for free. So what do you think about the potential of the Google Pixel 5 and 5 XL not having flagship specs? Do you think we really need the highest tier specs and features? Are you willing to pay for the highest tier specs, and do you think it's even worth it? Or do you believe that what really matters is the practical experience over specs? Let me know your thoughts on that and more by leaving a comment below and joining the discussion in the This Is Tech Today community Discord chat server. Thank you for watching This Is Tech Today, where we talk about the intersection of technology in our everyday lives, in business, and in all things creative. Until next time, and stay home.